Sit in my barber chair today. Whew. I think my shirt is a little wrinkled, but that's okay. I ain't gonna front y'all. I'm tired today, but I'm for the people. I love the people. Man, today I want to talk to you guys about writing the story. What does that mean? What does that mean, just writing the story? I was listening to a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I heard the artist was talking about, actually it was a producer talking about writing a song for an artist. And actually the producer was writing a song about him and actually wrote the song for the artist. When he wrote the song and brought it to the artist was just like, oh man, this is it. But it was the producer's story. It was actually his life story. It was a situation that he had went through. You know what I'm saying? And it turned out to be one of the artist's biggest songs to date. You know, one of the co-hosts was just like, man, you just have to write your story. You know, I didn't think it was a profound statement, but I just thought that was a heavy statement. You know what I'm saying? Writing your story. So, you know, as I'm listening and I'm just, you know, I'm going through my day, you know, that statement stuck with me. You know, what does that look like, writing your story as a producer? What that spoke to me is writing my story as a producer, writing your story, meaning for me, you know, when I'm in my creative space, when I am making music in my studio, I am making music that feels good to me. You know, music is a feeling. You know, music is a whole bunch of emotions. You know, for me, it's what I'm feeling in the moment. You know, whether it's me chopping up a sample, or you know, for those that, you know, check out my Sample Pack Saturdays, you know, it might be the way that sample may hit me. You know, a certain emotion may hit a certain way and be like, whoo, man, that sample just made me feel some type of way. It evokes a certain emotion and gives me a feeling. So my emotions begin to create this artistry. You know what I'm saying? I begin to take my paintbrush and begin to paint this picture, right? Write my story. For me, as I was listening to it and even pondering that statement, it is doing what, you know, making music that feels good to me, not trying to fit in the norm. You know what I'm saying? Not trying to sound like anybody else. I think sometimes, you know, as producers, you know, and I think sometimes, you know, it's necessary to, you know, stay up with the trends. You know what I'm saying? You know, we have to stay within the times. I do believe that. As somebody that sells music, I have to stay within I got to stay within the confines of what's happening in the music realm. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I have to do the trap stuff. I have to do what's relevant because that's what the artists are wanting. They're wanting that style of music. But I never want to get to the place where I am, you know, where I have to be confined to that place 24/7 or all of my days to try to stay current, or if I'm getting my identity in that place. I never want to feel like I have to stay up. I have to stay with the trends I want to be able to make music that feels good to me. You know what I'm saying? This sounds, you know, I know it's cliches, but it is a true statement. You know, music, and you know what? I take that back. I don't even want to say it's cliches because it is even biblical. You know, music is therapy. Music is healing. You know what I'm saying? In the book of Samuel, when they called David to come and play the harp for King Saul because he had an evil spirit. And when he came and played the music, the evil spirit came out of Saul. So the music is healing. The music is therapeutic. You know what I'm saying? For me, music helps, you know, sometimes, you know, when I'm in those ruts, I'm in those those icky places, when I'm down, you know what I'm saying, when I'm bent out, you know what I'm saying, when I'm feeling overwhelmed, you know, music helps me get out of that rut, you know what I'm saying. And sometimes, you know, those sometimes and those be the tracks when people, when I finish those tracks, and people, and I send those tracks off to artists, they're coming back and be like, bro, what were you going through? What you was going through when you made that? Because I felt that, bro. You was going through something. You know what I'm saying? And I'd be like, yeah, I was going through something. Yeah, yeah, bro. Yeah, the bills. You know what I'm saying? You know, a lot, writing my story, you know what I'm saying? A lot of times, you know, I can write my story through the music, you know what I'm saying? Just staying in my lane, you know what I'm saying? And I think when you can do that as a musician, the people that you're working with get the better version of you. That artist gets the best version of you when you can be your true self. When you're not trying to be Joe Jackson, not Joe Jackson, but Joe the producer. When you're not trying to be that producer, when you're not trying to be that producer, but when you're trying to just be you and be what the God-given gift ability that God has put in you and what you're going through in that moment. When you're giving the best you're giving the best to that artist. So when you get behind your boards, write your story. Try to write nobody else's story. And get on Facebook, Instagram, listening to what other producers doing. And listen, I'm not getting it. Don't get it wrong. I'm not saying that. I study other producers all the time. I'm checking out different techniques, you know, checking out different styles and stuff. But I'm not trying to sound like any other producer. I want to sound like the producer that God has created me to be. I want to be the producer, the beat maker that God has made me to be. I want to write the story that He has given me. Had this minister, he said this a while back. He said that whatever spirit of the producer of the music, whatever was spirit that was on that producer, that would bleed over to the artist, whether good or bad. If that artist had some evoking some bad emotions, that would bleed over. With some good emotions, it would bleed over. But you're putting your life story into that music. So man, write your story. You sit behind, you touch them keys, you touch them pads. Let that be your story. Don't let that be nobody else's story. Let it be your story. All right? It's your boy Marv. I'm out of here. Till next week. Peace.